Live? Go live. Good evening. We're live on Mile High Huddle podcast on YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter, but we want to grab Facebook as well. That's Mile High Huddle and Mile High Huddle podcast, your daily Denver Broncos coverage. We'll get those spinning, let it breathe for just a second before we get going on a Monday before the NFL draft. And that's 1 and 2 for Facebook. Looks like we are good to go. Welcome in, everybody. This is the Mile High Huddle podcast, the final mock draft Monday before mock drafts are done, before it is the NFL draft. My name is Scott Kennedy. If you're new here, you may not have seen me before. If you're an old head, I was doing Broncos for breakfast and for about 4 years and have been gone for about 10 weeks. This was my first show back since I stopped doing Broncos for breakfast and Eric Trickle took over. Been producing and happy to be on air with my good friend over on this side, Zack Kelberman. Zack, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm good. It's good to see you, Scott. It's felt like we haven't podcasted in a year. Feel like you haven't podcasted in 2 years. A lot of different components going on with Chad being on vacay, but the draft is fast approaching, and I'm excited to chop up Broncos talk with you today.
Yeah, there's, I feel like at least, at sometimes you get draft fatigue with this. It's like we've been talking about the same guys. Exactly. But I haven't talked to any of these guys with you, so it's almost like a new perspective, and maybe I'm interested to hear what you have to say about some of these guys, and I can throw in some of the things that cross my mind. And we'll finish. I'm going to make Zack do a mock draft, so we'll finish with a 7-round mock draft. Well, 6-round, because I don't think the Broncos have a 7th, so we'll go a 6-round mock draft. No trades. We'll just go straight down. But I do know, Zack, of all the people looking to trade down, which is just about everybody, the Denver Broncos are the one team rumored by Adam Schefter that's looking to move up a little bit, because Sean Payton is an impatient draft guy and wants to go get his guy. But with all of the teams looking to move down, feels like you could move up and get a bargain, Zack.
Yeah, it would be amazing, because you'd be probably getting the best running back in the draft in Ashton Jeanty if you do come up, Scott. I don't know who else would be a viable candidate. I just saw that Ian Rappaport said the Broncos could move up for Matthew Golden, the receiver from Texas. I don't know about that. I don't think you have to move up for him or receiver for that matter. But Jeanty, on the other hand, if they can get a bargain for him, as you said, Scott, I endorse that wholeheartedly.
I think Jeanty still might be tough, because I think you got to get ahead of the Bears. And I think getting up to the top 10 would still be relatively expensive. Getting up into the teens should be easier. I know, the Falcons are looking to move down for sure at 15. And then, the Cardinals are right there at 16, the Colts at 14. Those are teams with multiple needs, and there's just not a huge difference after the first couple of prospects, where the 6th best prospect and the 26th best prospect are about the same. We call them an exponential curve, and I swear we won't do much math on this, but at the top, it's very steep, the drop-off, and then it flattens out. Well, if I can get the same guy at 10 that I can at 25, well, I want to be at 25 and pick up a couple extra picks. That's the thought process there. That said, if you're targeting a specific position and you want to go get the best guy to do that, you might have to move up. And I don't think the tight end is off the table, not just running back with Jeanty, but when you're talking Loveland and maybe Warren, if you go with that guy, and then in the second round, if you still don't have to trade your pick to get out of it, in the second round, it's a deep running back draft class, Zack.
To your previous point, that's the same thing that George Paton said about a week ago in the pre-draft press conference, is that they feel like they can get the same exact player at 20 as they could at number 10 overall. So maybe not panic, maybe stick to your board and take the true BPA, no matter who that is. Or like you said, Scott, trade back a few spots, still get a premium player and collect some capital in the process.
Well, we go live every day, sometimes twice a day. We've got 9 shows across the course of the week because we like having the conversation with y'all. And it's my pleasure to say hello to some folks and say thank you to some folks that I don't get a chance to say thank you to because I'm in the background, like Sam Bam, who's coming in. And Sam's probably liking the way his Braves, that's one of the B's in there, Broncos, Braves, Mavericks. Pretty sure that's what it is for BBM. And Braves have been playing a little bit better. And Sam says, even Zack and Scott, it's draft week. Yes, it is. So glad it's finally about here. I got to leave early for a meeting, so I want to get my super chat in early. Well, thank you, Sam. Appreciate you thinking about us. See you Thursday night. Go Broncos.
Yeah, thank you, Sam. Can't wait for Thursday night.
David Youngkin says, great to see you, Scott. Thank you. I've seen you in the chat, but here I am now, too, in person. So It's good to be back on. The very first show I did, maybe the Broncos will be as lucky, or I'll be as lucky with who I say they should pick. The very first show I did was like January of 2021. I was a guest with Zach, and Zach shaved because I remember the comments about the big beard.
Yes.
I just noticed that. It's like
I had to get rid of that. I wasn't lying. It was going.
We were talking. I said, well, what do you need? And Chad was like, corner, something, and corner. I'm like, well, Pat Surtain, that's the guy. You want to get Pat Surtain out of this. So we'll see. I'm not nearly as convinced on anybody in this range as that I thought that Pat would be the guy at cornerback on this. Appreciate you, David. Another David McElrath, the Papa Bear coming in. He says, good evening, Broncos country. Chad, Zach, and Deacon Scott. Hashtag God bless USA. Hashtag let's go Bo. Lots of hashtags all the way to SEAL Team Knicks. I would still like to trade up for Ashton Jeanty or Tyler Warren. Now, and again, David, I think you got to get up into the top 10. And you're 10-7 last year. You've done well in free agency. Are you one player away from possibly making a serious run if that player ends up being a Saquon Barkley type, which is what you're hoping, to get Jahmyr Gibbs, to get Bijan Robinson, to get Saquon, to get Derek? There's 6 or 7 running backs that are difference makers like that. And if you're drafting a guy in the top 10, you're hoping to get that guy. Are you one of those guys from going 10-7 to 12-5, 13-4, and really being a threat in the NFL playoffs?
Yeah, I don't know about that. It's a good point. I mean, if you get Ashton Jeanty, you solve your running game. Maybe you get an extra win or two, but I don't know that you're immediately a Super Bowl contender. But you're at least a divisional round contender, if not an AFC championship contender. You're in the competition to push the Buffalo Bills and the Baltimore Ravens and the Cincinnati Bengals of the world. And it's not really a bad proposition for the Broncos, but you can't mortgage your future because, like you said, Scott, I think they're about a year still from truly competing.
Yeah, I look at the weapons and I think you can get them, though, despite the fact that I still think wide receiver is not a concern, but it's a need. I'd like to be more explosive at wide receiver. Tight end is a big need. You were poor at wide receiver at running, and you were poor at running back and tight end last year. Those were negatives, net negatives. If we're going, Zach, I like baseball stats, and I like the WAR, the wins above replacement. The WAR of 0 means you've got an average player. Anything above that means how many wins is that guy worth? Negative means he's not an average player. You were probably negative WAR at running back and tight end, and wide receiver, you were still positive, but you need lots of wide receivers. Mims came on. Vele had moments. And obviously Cortland Sutton had a really nice season, but I think you could stand to do with another weapon there. And how shocked would you be if the Falcons or if the Broncos went wide receiver at 20?
See, I wouldn't be shocked for the reasons you laid out. You can't rely on Troy Franklin to make another leap. You can't rely on Devon Vele becoming anything more than a long-term number 3. I wouldn't be surprised if the number 20 overall pick is a wide receiver. I would be surprised if they moved up to take a wide receiver like Ian Rappaport is saying. I think they can stay to their board, Scott, and take the BPA there. Yeah,
and I like the wide receiver. And the thing is it's not a great draft for wide receivers. This isn't it. It was the one where Chris Olave, Drake London, there were 4 or 5 pretty darn good wide receivers in the 2022 draft. But I don't think this is the one where you want to be trying to take a wide receiver out, in the second half of the first round. You might as well just wait and get one in the second round if you want to go wide receiver on that. MBLX test prep,
not just
who
me.
is here to party, as he lets us know. He's here to party. He says, whoa, who's the new guy? Scott Kennedy. I go by Scout Kennedy on X if you want to follow me there. I'm not all that active on X. Not like Nick. Nick is Nick's a psychopath on X. I don't like having all those conversations. There's too many just trolls on there. I've just started banning people, Zach. I just block them. I'm like, you're a moron, block. You're a moron, block. You're a moron, block. That's I don't want to waste my time with those conversations. Who I love having the conversation with, though, It's Michaela.
Duchess.
It's Michaela Parker, the Duchess. Good to see you.
Thank you, Michaela.
Good to see you, Michaela. She says, "Oh yeah, Zach and Deacon Scott. What do you guys make of Schefter's report that the Broncos are looking to move up?" We touched on this at the very beginning of the show, and they're the only team that's mentioned. You mentioned half a dozen teams that look to move down. And Michaela, what that means to me is they'll be able to move up, and it's not going to cost them a whole lot. If you're the Atlanta Falcons at 15, I know they want to move down. If it's me, I'd want to get a second-round pick out of it to go from 15 to 20. You're not going to get that when I can send a sixth and, a 2026 sixth and move up 3 spots and still get the guy I want. So it is a buyer's market, Michaela, for sure. And when you go 10-7, you got a rookie quarterback and an overachieving team, and you hit on all your targets in free agency the way the Denver Broncos did. You've got a bunch of money. You've got even more money next year. And you've got all of your draft picks, more or less. You've got the capital, the resources to go shop. I'll buy. And it's a buyer's market. So I will not be surprised at all to see the Broncos move up. And I think it's going to be cheaper than normal.
Yeah, I mean, a couple thoughts here. You could go 50-50, Michaela. It's either a smokescreen and a la J.J. McCarthy last year. If you recall, around this time, they were hamming up their interest in McCarthy to throw the scent off of the Bo Nix trail. It could be the same thing with Genty. They could be going up for Golden. They could be taking a defensive lineman at 20. We don't know. Or their interest could be genuine. We know Sean Payton's affinity for running backs. We know how badly the Broncos need a running back. And look at what Genty said himself about a week ago. I wrote about it. The Broncos have been heavy on me since the NFL scouting combine throughout the pre-draft process. So he's the best running back in the draft. It's their biggest need on the roster. It's not crazy to think that the Broncos could want to move up for him, Scott.
Phil says Nick owns stock in X. I don't think there is stock in X anymore. I think it when it got bought, it went back to a private company on this one. Michael Ronquillo, want to say hello to Michael. The all my supers just got rearranged, so I might have to hit on y'all more than once. Michael says, "Good evening, Zach and Scott in the Mile High Huddle podcast. Go Bo Broncos." Good to see you again, Michael. I'll talk with Michael this morning a little bit on one of Nick and mine's shows. He's just always there for us. As I call him the sunrise. He's as dependable as the sunrise on there. Eric Flynn, good to see you as well. Thank you for the support and appreciate you being here. I told you before, your thumbnail literally is the size of a thumbnail. And when I glance down and see yours, all I see is a big Buckeye head. That's what it looks like to me, is Bruce the Buckeye in the colors of the red with the brown and the tan Buckeye. And I know that's not what it is, the giant cap. But Eric, I love your avatar there. Phil McLaughlin coming in on Facebook as well. He says, "Good evening, Scott and Zach. We signed Zach Triner. Do we assume Fraboni is not that good, or is this just for competition?" Those are long snappers. I mean, what are we talking about here?
Yeah, the Broncos signed Triner earlier today, long snapper, undrafted free agent in 2015. He spent 6 years with the Buccaneers. He won a Super Bowl there, appeared in 84 career games. He signed a non-guaranteed 1-year, $1.17 million contract. Mitch Fraboni, the incumbent long snapper, signed an extension that pays him, I think, $4 or $5 million over the course of 3 or 4 years. So they could get younger, they could get cheaper, or at least cheaper and maybe more effective with Schreiner, who has the experience. It's going to be an offseason battle, Phil, and it's going to come down, I think, to training camp in the preseason.
Yeah, I don't know too much about those guys. Darren Hall, I don't know if this is a response to me talking about being in 6 rounds, not in the 7th, but the Broncos don't have a 7th round pick. They have 3 6. Mentioned some guys in the 7th that have been pretty good, like Edelman, Taysom Hill, Tommy Malott. And yeah, every pick is a lottery ticket. Your odds of hitting on guys decrease as you go down, but that doesn't mean you won't hit on guys, including undrafted free agents. You know, with 30 picks, actually, it's probably more than that with the comp picks, 40 picks over 30 years. That's 1,200 guys that have been picked in the 7th round. Odds are you're going to get a couple of them out of 1,200 that are going to be pretty good football players that are going to defy the odds. The hard part is trying to defy the odds and find those 3 guys out of the 1,200 and pick the right guy. You know, I've said before, with a small enough sample size, you can prove any point you want to. hey, what do I even need to draft for? I'm just going to go to Walmart and find a guy stocking shelves and put him in at quarterback and get a multiple Super Bowl MVP here. It doesn't work like that. And I don't think that's what you're saying, but that kind of came in the timing of me talking about the draft picks you have. And look who we got here, Zach, if you'd like to say hello to Deanna.
Deanna. Thank you so much, Deanna. Seeing that leaves me tongue-tied and twisted, and I lose my train of thought. Thank you so much for your generosity. Hey, guys, do you think there's really a chance to get Genty, or is it wishful thinking? I think, Scott, really quickly, there is a chance as long as Sean Payton's calling the shots. He's known to be aggressive historically to get his guy. Again, Deanna, running back is the Broncos' biggest need. Genty is the best running back in the draft class. But to something you said, Scott, earlier, this is why it could be wishful thinking. You'd realistically have to get to number 5 overall to guarantee almost that you get Genty. You have to skip past the Raiders at number 6, who are hot on Genty's trail. Now, going from 20 to 5, that's a proposition that's going to cost you, multiple future first-round pick, second-rounder, maybe a player. It's going to be a major package you're going to put together. And do you do that for a running back, a non-premium position? Yeah, I don't know. Premium package. Salute.
Major package.
Inside joke. Inside baseball.
So is there really a chance? I'm a pessimist by nature, and frankly, making a deal is a lot harder than not making a deal. So my initial reaction on this is no, you're not going to get Genty. Is it wishful thinking? Probably, but to me, it's not even like that big a wishful thinking, because it's like, oh no, if we don't get this guy, we're screwed. That's kind of how you feel at running back or at quarterback this year. If you needed a quarterback, you're like, man, Cam Ward's even just kind of meh. I'm not all that excited about Cam Ward. And after that, you go, I don't know what we're going to do. If you don't get Genty, there's a dozen running backs that are going to be upgrades. Do you get better out of this draft? I guarantee on paper, you're going to feel better about who comes in at running back than what you had last year. That's just the way it is. Estime was a 5th-round pick, I believe. You got a couple of undrafted free agents in the backfield, and you got a one-legged Javonte Williams back there. So there is going to be a premium draft pick used at the running back position in a draft that is deep at running back. So I'm not too upset about it. If, it's like, if we don't hit on Genty, we're in trouble. Now, do you want to play against him all the time? It could be another 7 years of Josh Jacobs who caused problems for the Denver Broncos. Because David asked, Scott, how much would it cost to move up to get Genty? You may have to move up to 4. I think that's too expensive, because as Zach said, who else is looking for for Ashton Genty, Zach?
The Cowboys at 12, the Bears at 10. I mean, there's a bunch of teams. I mean, even the Bengals at 17, Scott?
Raiders at 6.
Raiders at 6.
So let's see, you're not trading in a vacuum. So I'm on the horn with, 4 or 5. Genty's on the board. I'm on the phone with Jacksonville, who needs a bunch of players. They might want to move down. They might not. And I'm trying to convince them to move to 20. Meanwhile, you've got the Raiders sitting there saying, why don't you move back to 6 and we'll throw in next year's 2? Okay, I'll move down 2 spots and pick up a second round. What does it take you when you're dealing with 20 to beat that? It's probably going to cost you another first rounder and then another pick after that. Do I want to do that for Ashton Genty? I don't. I don't. I'd rather sit back and let the board fall to me, knowing I can get Marion Hampton. I can get Travion Henderson. I can get some guys moving down the board. So I think it would be cost prohibitive to move up into the top 5 in a draft that isn't just the best players are in the top 5. So those guys are really holding on to those picks. Last year we talked about what would it take to get up into 1, 2, or 3 for one of those 3 quarterbacks. It's impossible. Every one of those teams needs a quarterback. They're not going to trade out of that spot when they need one too. So I just, if it's going to take you moving up into the top 5 to get Ashton Genty, you don't want him. That's too much.
We wholeheartedly agree on that. As much as I love Genty, Travion Henderson as a consolation prize is not too shabby, Scott. If this wasn't such a deep draft class, maybe you entertain it, but even then, you only come up that far and give up that much for a quarterback. That is it. The guy who passes the ball, not the guy who runs the ball. They can still get a nice plan B if they just hold firm.
And people are saying real quick before we move on to Michaela here, is coming in hot pink.
Well, Michaela, thank you.
You know, they're saying, you know, the Raiders need a quarterback. Well, so do the Browns. And most people do not have the Browns taking a quarterback because it's too expensive to take one at 2. I think they're at 2 or 3. They're at 2, right? Yeah, they're at 2. It's either Shedeur Sanders or Jackson Dart, you know, who has pulled himself out of. When I saw his name and Jalen Milroe on they're going to be in Green Bay for the first round of the draft with the cameras on them. I'm like, why? That doesn't make any sense. And Jackson Dart is pulled out. He's not going to be there. I'm like, okay, good. That's probably a smart move. You know, unless you come out there and beast mode it and say, you know, I'm just here so I don't get fined and have some fun with it. But, you know, as far as the Raiders going to get Gentry, they have a lot bigger needs. I think it's a smoke screen to get the Broncos to jump. I don't think Sean Payton's going to jump that high. You know, they're not the Raiders might say jump and, you know, might say how high, and Sean Payton's going to say not that high. Not when they can sit back and I can get Tyler Warren. I love Tyler Warren. I think Tyler Warren in a Broncos offense would be disgusting. Tyler Warren, you can get Loveland. I can get Henderson. I can get Hampton. Those are just 4 guys off the top of my head that you don't have to be in the top 5 to get if you want to move up and get one of those guys. So I'm not on Genty. We were talking a lot about Genty here, and I don't think it's really going to be a thing for the Denver Broncos.
Yeah, I think Cleveland's going to bypass quarterback in the first round and then take Milroe more than likely in the top of the second round. That would be a decent solution for them. But for the Broncos, yeah, I'm in agreement with Scott. The Broncos don't have to jump because unlike the Raiders, they have a quarterback. All they're doing is building around the quarterback now. So they shouldn't give up the capital with which they would build around Bo Nix. Stay put, like Scott said, you'd be pretty much guaranteed if you stay at 20 to land Travion Henderson or more likely Omarion Hampton. That's a pretty good consolation prize.
Or Al says, wait, what? Scott, I've missed seeing you live. Thanks for keeping our energy up. Yeah, it's Zach and I are both kind of surly. So when we get together on this, we both rise up just a little bit on this. So appreciate you, Ralph. Hope you're doing well. Dennis Cubs in. Good to see you, Dennis. He said, so if we don't get Genty, here we go again. I just, where did this come from? Why is there so much talk about Genty on here, who is being mocked in most top 10s? Why, Zach, answer me this. Why is there so much talk about the Broncos getting Ashton Genty?
I can answer that very simply because I've edited every story the last couple of days is because it's all that everyone is talking about. Because you get the one rumor that the Broncos could move up. You get the Ashton Genty comments that the Broncos have been heavy on him. There's nothing else going on right now. You get the Schefter report. All that coalesces, Scott. And that's where we are right now.
The Broncos would like to move up. Ashton Genty, they need a running back. Ashton Genty's the best one. Yeah, I think you're talking Bijan Robinson territory at number 8. You know, he's going to be a top 10. I just don't see him moving that high. I think if even if you were on the phone and making a move, whoever they're trading with would get on the phone and do a counter deal with somebody else that's not picking at 20. And it's like, oh, I can get that same deal and pick at 17 instead of 20. I'm going to make that deal instead. Then maybe I'll trade down again. I don't see it with Genty. But, you know, for me, 2-3 running backs in line, it seems like it's Hampton and Henderson. And I know you've been really high on Henderson as that guy. And, you know, again, you can miss, but it's an immediate upgrade. Running back is probably the easiest evaluation there is in sports. They're just born. I mean, you don't coach those guys up if they can get some of the basics. The position you hear the most about, oh, you can't coach that, is running back. You know, and in college, the best recruiters, they're running backs coaches because they don't have to coach. They just go out and recruit. This guy's an ace recorder. We'll make him the running backs coach because they don't have to coach anything.
Listen, I still remember, I think it was the 2008 draft when Darren McFadden came out, and I really, really wanted him, Scott. I thought he was going to be a generational Hall of Fame talent, but then it ended up being where other running backs in that class had a better NFL career than McFadden did. And I don't know if it's going to be the case with Ashton Genty. All I do know is if the Broncos even reach for Trey Henderson at 20 and take him, I do believe that Henderson will go on to have a comparable career. He's going to be a really good pro, and the Broncos, Scott, should not feel ashamed if they can't get the 1A and they have to settle for the 1B.
Darren McFadden was so good at Arkansas.
Yes.
I thought he should have won a Heisman like maybe the first year that Tebow won it. Tebow might have been the best college football player of all time. But McFadden was doing everything on a worse team, and I thought him and Adrian Peterson were like the Bo and Herschel of our generation. But with the injuries, he like hurt his foot really quickly over it with the Raiders, and just never really panned out for him in the pros. And then Adrian Peterson went on to be, Adrian Peterson. He's the answer to a lot. You ask a lot of old guys like me, who's the best prospect you ever saw? A lot of them will say Adrian Peterson. Coming out of high school. I mean, he was just one of those guys that didn't really need to go to college. He was a full grown man at 17, 18 years old. But yeah, I was a fan of McFadden, but putting all those eggs in one basket, shoot, I'd rather have a second and a fifth. Give me two running backs than just the one on that one. Gary Palmer, good to see you. GLP says, hi, Zach and Scott. Are you doing a mock? We're going to do a mock. There's a lot of rumors about us moving up. We're probably not going to move up, though. But I think it's wishful thinking. Go Bo Broncos. No, Gary, I think there's a good chance of you moving up. If they just because there's so many teams that want to move down, that it's a buyer's market. Instead of trading, I'm going to trade 20 and a third to move up 4 spots. It might be 20 and a fifth to move up 3 or 4 spots. It might be a lot easier and a lot cheaper this year. So if they target a specific player and they're still on the board, I can absolutely see the Broncos moving up. I just don't think they're moving up into the top 5. I think that would be prohibitively expensive. Moving up higher in the 11 to 20, 20 obviously, 11 to 20 range, yes. I think that's very possible. In fact, I think it's probable that it happens, Zach. You got 3 6s. Package a couple of those together.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I think the only way the Broncos do trade up is if Genty falls past the Raiders at number 6. And beyond that, maybe past Chicago at number 10. But if he does slip into the 10 range, 11, 12 Cowboys range, I could for sure see the Broncos making a couple phone calls. And you never know, Gary. They could fleece whatever team they're trading with. They just have to gauge the interest and do the due diligence. But ultimately, Scott, I don't think they're going to trade up. I think they're going to stay pat.
Yeah, if the Bears stay there, I think 10, it might be the floor for Genty because you've got, it was like, what are you doing taking a running back that high? Well, Bijan Robinson and Jahmyr Gibbs have justified their draft slots. Nobody's really looking back and saying, no, they reached on a running back at number 8. The running back position is cool again. When I grew up, it was middle linebackers and running backs. Mike Singletary and Walter Payton in Chicago. Those were the cool positions. Not so much anymore. Middle linebacker is still off, but running back is becoming cool again. So I think the floor for Genty is 10. Yeah. And I think it'll still be awfully hard to get into the top 10 and more expensive than I would want to spend. But I'm very conservative when it comes to, I want more picks, not less. And it's going to cost me a lot to move up into the top 10. Eric Holt, good to see you, Eric. He says, hey guys, riddle me this. The Giants call and offer you 34-47 and a second round in 2026 for the 20th. That would be 34, 47, and 51. Are you pulling the trigger? So I move down to 34. I go from 20 to 34, and I pick up a 47th and a 2026 second round. Are you doing that deal?
So you get 2 second rounds this year and a second round next year.
Yeah, you're moving from 20 to 34. That's the pick swap. You add what you're adding is 47 this year and a second round in 2026. Are you doing that deal?
I don't know. See, I don't want to cut off my nose to spite my face, Scott. I wouldn't mind moving down a few spots and picking up some draft picks, but you're tempting fate with losing out on Trey Henderson or other players, defensive lineman Derek Harmon, who could fall a little bit because of injury concerns. I don't know. My inclination is to stay put or not moved out of the first round entirely. That would be tough for me.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the caveat here is who's at 20. You're making that deal when you're on the clock. Who's at 20? I don't know that that's enough for me right now. It's the NFL stands for not for long, right? And while Peyton and Peyton are secure in their jobs, it's hard sometimes to look to 2026 for a second round pick. However, the Giants, Zach, the Giants, that could be the 34th pick again next year.
Sure. Good point.
You know, so if you think, to your point earlier, I think we're a year away. You know, I think we're really a year away. Then I'm picking up 34 and 47. I can address running back and I can address tight end with those two spots. And then I've got a second runner for next year. Then, that's a great question, Eric.
It is.
Because it's going to really, really get me thinking. Normally, I can just say yes or no. I mean,
Same.
No, yes. These are easy. You know, do I want to give up what it would take to move up into the top 5 to get Ashton Jeanty? No. That one's easy. This one's a thinker, Eric. This is a tough one. I would seriously consider doing it, knowing that I'm secure in my job and we're building this thing. And I'm not in a win now. I have to win now or I'm fired mode. You can afford to plan long term. And picking up that extra second while still getting a really good player at 34, picking up 2 extra seconds might be worth it. I'd do it. Zach, I'd do it. Because if that was in this class, if that was a third, let's just say it was a third this year instead of a second next year. And they said, here, we're going to give you 47 and 70 to move to 34. Yeah, I'm doing it. I'm probably doing that.
I could for sure see it going either way. I wish we had the benefit of hindsight, like you said, to see who's on the board. If I could guarantee I can get either a premium running back or a premium defensive lineman, if I do move down, then yeah, I'd probably take that deal. It's just against my natural instinct. Maybe I'm more Sean Payton and you're more George Payton.
Yeah, I like playing mathematics and, you know, probability. If you've got a 60% chance of hitting at 20, and a 50% chance of hitting at 34 and a 45% chance of hitting at 47, my chances of hitting on one guy are better than yours. That's basic probability. And I like that. I like hedging my bets on this because I'm unlucky. So I need to go with as much probability as possible. Deanna, look at Deanna coming back in.
Yeah,
another hot pick, the fuchsia. I'm hoping we get Travion Henderson, then look to a wide receiver, running back. You double dipping on that one, Deanna? And maybe even a center. Just excited for the draft. Can't wait for football season to start. Deanna, I think you would really like Chad Reuter's 7-round mock draft that he did. I'm going to spin these through you, Zach, and tell me what you think on this.
Yep.
First round, he goes to Marion Hampton. This is on NFL.com today. I thought this was a fantastic mock for the Broncos. Marion Hampton, running back. Tight end Mason Taylor in the second. Linebacker out of Oklahoma, Danny Stutzman in the third. Wide receiver Tez Johnson out of Oregon in the fourth. Safety Maxon Hook out of Toledo. A big defensive tackle also in the sixth. Tyron Ingram Dawkins out of the University of Georgia. And then center Jonah Monheim out of USC to close out the draft. I'm like, yes, please. Love it. I called him out because I didn't like what he's done for the Falcons. What he keeps doing there. He keeps going inside linebacker center in 1 and 2. And I'm like, if you go center round 2, I'm going to kill you guys. Literally, I'm going to be online and I'm going to shillelagh all of you. But I love those picks for Reuter. And I think you'd probably like that haul too, Deanna. You got your running back, wide receiver, and center.
Yeah, I'm third here. I would sign up for that in a heartbeat. And a lot of good value picks there, Scott, that the Broncos don't have to trade up, don't have to surrender those premium selections, and they can hold firm and address every area. And thank you so much, as always, for your generosity. We love you around here.
And Micah comes in, and Micah says, getting more is not better than quality. If you can find a way to guarantee me that you're going to get a better player, I'm with you. But there are no guarantees. That's why I say I play the probability on this. If I have 3 second-round picks and you've got 15, odds are I'm going to get a better player. And I might get 2 better players. I might even get 3 better players. But the odds are in my favor because there are no guarantees. Just because you're picked higher doesn't mean you're going to hit. Half of these first-round picks that we're drooling over are going to bust. It's just the fact of the matter. And again, it's a curve. It's not really an exponential curve. It's a pretty linear curve. The probability is higher at the top, but it goes down. But the probability of multiple players in the second of getting one is better than one in the first, typically. So it's if there were guarantees and you could guarantee me getting better quality, I'd take it. Again, it depends. And that's why they've come up with these points. Those point system is based on historical probability and, what you need and who's available and depth of the draft.
That's why you have to trust the process and hope that you have the right people making the right picks. And fortunately, Sean Payton and George Payton have proven quite capable of that.
Phil McLaughlin comes in and says, guys, I believe he means Walter Nolan here, defensive tackle from Ole Miss. Would he be a possibility for us? Yes. Yes. I don't think you'd have to even get him at 20, honestly. I think there's a chance that you could even get him in the second round. I've seen him, 51 might be too low. So if you trade back or if you trade up, I package two of those 6 together and move up from 50 into 40, then maybe, maybe. But I think Nolan's on the cards, so to speak.
Yeah, I'm with Scott there. He's not going to make it to 51, but if the Broncos want to move down and pick up an extra pick, be my guest. He's one of the best defensive linemen. We always talk about the character concerns and the red flags, and I get that. But from a pure physical and talent standpoint, Scott, the dude can flat out play, and he would be a big-time disruptor in the middle of the Broncos defense.
Shiloh Heath coming in with a super chat. Good to see you, Shiloh, and the gorgeous dog of yours in your thumbnail. He says, super for Scott on screen. Thank you. He says, I hope Loveland falls. Nick's been talking with some of the stuff he's been listening to that, Loveland is one of those guys that people, and Mikael Williams, the defensive lineman, edge linebacker from the University of Georgia, are 2 guys that are going way too low in mock drafts. So Loveland might not fall, but he might be the guy that you target at 14, 15, 16 to move up for, because he's not going to be there at 20. And if you love him, yes, going back to the quality over quantity, there is a science to this. It's an art form, it's a science, and then there's some just gut feelings, and then there's trusting that I've got one of the best offensive minds in the game, and this is a pretty special weapon that's going to do some things for an already good offense that you couldn't do last year. You just flat out couldn't do. You didn't have the personnel to do it last year. Greg Dulcich was shipped out and he didn't get a target after he left the Broncos. Not a single target. I think he went to the Giants, wasn't it? I looked him up the other day to see, did he do anything? Didn't get a target the rest of the season. Couple of undrafted free agents on the team and the tight end. Loveland's a difference maker. Warren's a difference maker. Those are big time players that I would move up for if it depending on the price wouldn't cost me too much, Shiloh.
Yeah, we've come full circle with the Colston Loveland mock draft scenarios. The offseason started with everyone under the sun projecting the Broncos taking Loveland. Then the Broncos signed Evan Ingram, and then Loveland wasn't included in any mock drafts for the Broncos going forward. But now it's a possibility, like Scott said, his arrow is shooting way upward heading into the draft. And again, it's not a major mortgage, altering proposition like moving up in the top 5 for Ashton Jeanty would be. If you did want to come up a few spots, like Scott said, package a couple mid-round picks together and go get your guy. But my caveat with him is only if Sean Payton 1,000% loves him enough to buy half the running back, Scott.
And Ingram shouldn't stop you from getting another tight end. If that's the way you want to go, he shouldn't stop you from getting another tight end, and I don't think he will. If I'm looking at this board and the Paytons are talking, it's like there's 10 running backs we love still on the board. There's 2 tight ends. All right, let's go get the tight end. I still like wide receiver for this team. I really do. Devon Bailey, he turns 28 this year. There's not going to be some magical uncorking of, where he's just going to become this guy. It's like, oh, we're waiting for him to develop. He's 28 years old, man. He's developed. I know there's different stages and he'll get better just incrementally through experience, but we're not waiting for the light bulb to come on a 28-year-old player here. Franklin Mims, I like flashes of what I saw, but are they dependable number 2s? Do you have a dependable number 2? Not right now. I don't think you do at this point. Vele showed some signs, and then he kind of, after they'd said, you know what, we just need to press this guy at the line of scrimmage so he can't get the slants anymore, he kind of disappeared, Zach, second half of the season. And that was when the offense started opening up. So it was kind of counterintuitive. As the offense did better, Vele had less of a role. Well, that also meant that Mims was getting more of a role too. But I like wide receiver for this team too.
Yeah, that's where the breadcrumbs are leading right now with all the rumors. And I think Sean Payton, to an extent, Scott, he wants his own Jamar Chase and T. Higgins set up. And he has his poor man's version of T. Higgins and Cortland Sutton, and he'll get his poor man's version of Jamar Chase, maybe in Luther Burden or Amika Egbuka or Matthew Golden, the one that Rappaport said the Broncos could move up for, or maybe even Ted McMillan. But it's not crazy at all to think that your wish could come true, Scott.
Yeah, I do. I like the explosiveness of the wide receivers, especially since you've got a good pass catching tight end in there. We're going to hit Victor, and then we're going to do through a mock draft real quick. Victor, good to see you. He says, good afternoon, Zach, Scott, and Broncos country. This week is the week. However the cards fall, I know we're going to pick up some good pieces to the puzzle. Hashtag MHH for life. Hashtag go Bo. Yeah, there's talked about the biggest holes on this team really are the places where it's the cheapest to upgrade. Linebacker, running back, tight end. For the most part, except for maybe wide receiver, you've got the big positions covered for the most part. Cornerback, good. Quarterback, good. Tackle, we're solid off in the tackles. Edge rushers, go 4 deep there. Defensive tackle, with Zach Allen. Safety, we're okay at safety too. So I can really go ultra premium in the draft with my picks and not worry about positional value. I don't have to worry. I want to win. I need, that's my value now is I want wins. I don't care about positional value when I'm picking in the 20s and the teens. It's not nearly as a big a difference as when I'm picking in the top 10, which you're not doing. So good to see you, Victor, and Chad. Good to see you, Chad. Hope things are going well.
Thank you, boss.
Been over there seeing Patrick and drinking Lion coffee over in Hawaii. So he says, it's finally draft week. Thank you, Chad. Thank you for the super. Hope your trip is doing well once it finally got underway. Speaking of getting underway, Zach, are you ready to go?
I am ready, Scott.
All right, let's go share screen on here. All right, I warn you that I love NFL mock draft database, but it keeps popping up with this little video here, which becomes a pain. It shouldn't affect the overall draft, but it kind of gets in the way sometimes here. But I think they've got the best board. It's a composite of a bunch of different draft rankings, and I think they have the best board. PFF, they undervalue. They've got some anomalies out there. It's like, okay, well, I take Jalen Walker every time at 18. That's not really that realistic when everybody else is saying he's a 7. But we're ready to go here, so I'm going to hit start and get going. As I look at Tyler Warren just hanging out. Oh, there he goes. So we could trade down, move down
Chargers.
With the Chargers. I don't think so. We're going to reject.
Stand.
I'm rejecting all these. We talked about what was the offer. The question from who was it? From Eric. That was a better offer that Eric proposed than this one, which was moving down to 40, getting a 3rd and a 4th. So I'm back on board, Eric. That I'd probably take that deal, depending on who was there. But I'm gonna reject.
Nah,
there's kind of the deal right there that
not
you
helping
mentioned.
them out.
You're moving way down. You're moving from 20 to 50.
Nope.
I like all the picks, but I'm not rebuilding anymore, Zach. I need a premium player. I'm not rebuilding anymore. I don't need 6 guys under cheap contracts because my cap situation is a joke.
It's true. I'm not helping out the Seahawks.
Here we go. This is about if this came to be right here, you are so excited. So on the board, you've got Ted McMillan. You've got Colston Loveland. You've got Omarion Hampton is still there, who you kind of expect him to be. I could go Kenneth Grant, who I've seen mocked up as high as 10. If I wanted to go defensive tackle. If I wanted to try and upgrade, it's center. Gray Zabel's still on the board. I'll let you choose. I'll let who do you want out of this group? Frankly, I might move down a few spots.
I might too, but you know who else is available? And I have to be true to my own board, Scott, and that would be Trey Henderson. I'm assuming he is.
Yeah, let me see if I go running backs.
Maybe. Yeah.
He's at 42.
Is this like a no trade mock?
No, we're not going to trade. Yeah, we're not going to trade.
You got to take the highest rated. I don't know, man. Like you have Loveland, you have
It's a
McMillan.
great board.
It's too hard to choose from. You have so many good players. You can go any scenario here.
I'll
think
tell you
running
flat
back,
out who I'm taking on this. I'm taking
Loveland.
Ted McMillan.
Oh, okay.
That's where I would go on this. I just talked about wanting a wide receiver. I don't think he's fallen that far. If I'm looking at this, I'd go kind of the way it is here in order. I'd go McMillan and then Loveland and then maybe even Jihad Campbell before running back in this spot. I'm not so in love with any of the remaining running backs that I don't think I can't get one in the second round, that I would love to get the number one wide receiver right here.
Well, let's do an exercise. Let's take a gamble. Let's take McMillan and see if Henderson falls to 51.
All right, we're going with McMillan, and we're gonna roll the dice on a deep running back class.
If not, we'll get someone else.
Going down to 51. We're not trading. But I think you went.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard. Where do I see previous picks? If I go running back now, I'm looking at Scatabo might be the top guy. Caleb Johnson, Quishon Judkins at 54.
Yeah, I'd probably go Judkins, highest rated back at that spot.
I want my running back now.
Yeah.
You want your running back?
Yeah, I'm going. I mean, not my plan A, but I'll go Judkins there over Caleb Johnson. So the offense is definitely boosted so far.
Yeah, you think? And then maybe I'm looking, if he's there, we're going to, we get to pick here. I'm taking this one for us, Zach. I'm going to step up since I'm driving this thing.
Yep.
I've seen Double O, Femi Olajudejo. I loved him at the Senior Bowl. I was like, why aren't more people talking about this guy? 2 weeks later, I saw him mocked in the first round by one of the big boys. I only watch NFL.com, ESPN, and those two, and then I'll look PFF every once in a while. But it was an ESPN or NFL.com mock that had Double O in the first round. I'm going edge here. I know, well, we're pretty good at edge, but I don't care. Love this guy. And you can never have too many edge rushers.
Yep. And
it hedges your bets at edge with some of the money that's coming up for someone like Nick Benito. Interior OL, he's a tackle. I like Emory Jones. Here's a big defensive lineman. I could double dip at running back. Damian Martinez is pretty good. Here's your big lineman. He's just kind of stiff. But if you need somebody to block a lane, he's like 6'6", 340. Deion Walker.
I like RJ Harvey, but I don't think I want to go running back again this soon. I was thinking of Helm. Get your tight end.
At tight end.
Who else is
there?
There
We go. He's the next highest tight end. That's fine with me. You ready?
There's Chad's boy, Brian. Yeah, let's go Gunnar Helm.
Burning Stools later. Gunnar Helm. But see, Gunnar wasn't at the Senior Bowl. So we're just, we're going, yes, Burning Stool is one of the best guys at the Senior Bowl, but we didn't see everybody at the Senior Bowl. Burning Stool was really good. All right. We go back to all here. There goes. We're not trading. We won't spend too much time on this. We're down to there's a change of pace type of back if you want.
Yeah, I would have loved Jaden Blue. I just saw him go off the board.
I know he went late. I'm like, there's your home run hitter right there. Your
I think ETN. And you know what? The Chiefs want him reportedly. So if we can hurt the Chiefs and help the Broncos, that's where I'm leaning.
Let's double dip. I think you need two running backs, and you didn't take one in free agency. So you want two running backs, and if it costs you a 6, well, why'd you go another running back? He's a 6 rounder, man. It's okay.
And the room is so bad as it is.
Yeah, I need multiple running backs there. I could use a safety,
defensive line
on the board. You know what? By God, it's time to draft an offensive tackle or linebacker. Kobe King, I like him too.
Madman.
There's a wide receiver I think is a sleeper. Is Isaac Tesla. He is a big, strong dude. He is little Jordan Humphrey with speed. Burning Stool, there's another edge. We've gone there. Safety, Sebastian. Big defensive line. I'm a big fan of Cam Jackson. We haven't gone interior defensive line.
That's where I think we should go.
Out of Florida. I might go offensive tackle, or I do like Cam Jackson a lot.
Let's do it.
All right. And then we pick again quickly. We can go offensive tackle. And then let's go offensive tackle here with our last pick.
Break the streak.
Yeah, it's time. It's time to get a developmental guy in there.
An 8-year streak has come to an end, Broncos country.
Let's hit. While that's finishing up, let's talk to Gio. Gio, good to see you. Appreciate the super, my friend. He says, late to the show, guys. I'll watch in full after. In the meantime, let me help keep the lights on. Helps keep my forehead nice and shiny this late in the day, too. So thank you so much for helping to keep the lights on, Gio. Hope you are doing well. Been a while since I've gotten to say hello and thank you, and I'm going to take that chance now. Hello and thank you. So we ended up going without any trades, wide receiver, running back, edge, gunner, at tight end, another running back, because you could use two, big defensive lineman, big offensive tackle. I'd be pretty happy with this haul. This is like, are you excited about seeing camp? Are you excited about seeing these new guys? Or, do you come away going, oh man, okay, great. A reserve offensive tackle, these guys we're not even going to see play. Is this something you could get behind going into the 2025 season? I mean, I'm biased because we made the pick, Zach, but I'd be pretty excited about seeing these guys in Broncos uniforms.
Scott, this is the report card I never got in school. Look at this. A+, A+, A+. I think we absolutely slayed, and I think we filled every major Broncos need. Can't do it all, but I think we bit off a chunk.
Yeah, again, like I said, I'm biased, but what they do is it helps give you an idea of some of the players that might be available when the Broncos are picking. And, I know there's probably going to be some comments on there about Cam Scatabo. I haven't quite got his name. Could have taken him. I know he's kind of a fan favorite. But we went with Quishon on this instead. And then again, I absolutely love Double O out of UCLA. I think he is just going to be a steal at edge. So, Zach, we're about out of here. We promised a mock draft. This is the last mock draft Monday before the rubber hits the road. Hope you enjoyed it, Broncos country.
I think we hit a home run. Let us know how we did. Another tremendous episode as always. I can't believe it's been almost 52 minutes. You guys make it go so fast, and it's so fun. If you haven't followed us yet, you know what to do. Be sure to follow us on X at the MHH Pod. You can follow the main account on X at Mile High Huddle, Scott at Scout Kennedy, myself at Kelberman NFL, and Chad at Chad and Jensen. If you haven't dropped us a like yet on Facebook, be sure to at facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod. You can find us on Instagram at mile_high_huddle. If you want some merch like we're rocking each and every single podcast, check out MHHmerch.com and get you some. If you haven't done so, please leave us a 5-star review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts for a chance to win some merch each and every single month. But if anything, y'all, please, very important that you subscribe, you like, you share this video and every video you see on the MHH channel. It really helps us grow and reach more Broncos fans. Just like you.
Ralph coming in with a last-minute super. He says, I think Kelsey was a second-round pick and Fant was a first-round pick. Wasn't Shannon Sharp a 6? Tight end's a pull on the machine. Yeah, I think there's more variance. The more athleticism it takes, the easier it is to hit. That's just the way it is. And tight ends, typically, I used to joke when I was scouting high school football players in the South, why don't any good tight ends come from the South? Because if they're big and fast, they play defense. That's just the way it was. Now, things have changed. The rules have changed so much that more of those guys that were going and playing linebacker and defensive end, more of them are playing wide receiver too. More of them are playing tight end now. So you're getting more athletes there. But, you've got kind of a cookie cutter. This is his height. This is his weight. This is his 40. And there's not a lot of variance in there as you get with some of these freaks on the other side of the ball at corner. At wide receiver, where you get these height, weight, speed monsters, where tight end and linebacker, they're not typically height, weight, speed monsters. So they're tougher to evaluate. So there is a lot more variance there, Ralph. You're absolutely right. And then how they are used and how you scheme them open is as important as anything, which we saw. If we switch places with Caleb Williams and Bo Nix last year, are we still talking about Bo Nix? Are we still singing his praises? Are we thinking more highly of Caleb Williams if he got to play for a year under Sean Payton instead of the Chicago Bears, who've been a disaster for years? So if I can match a premium prospect with Sean Payton, look out. Look out on that one, Zach.
Yeah, tight end historically, it's one of those positions that is really tough to transition from college to the NFL. The Broncos learned that the hard way with Jeff Hireman, Jake Butt, Greg Dulcich. it wouldn't hurt, like we talk about doing at running back, Scott, to maybe double up a tight end. Take one early and take one late. You can't have too many because beyond Evan Ingram, what really do you have? You go back to the Lucas Krulls and the Adam Troutmans and the Nate Atkinses of the world. Those are the definition, Scott, and you know I'm right, everyone knows it, of a Jag. You can stand to really upgrade that room.
Yeah, I mean, just look at what they've earned and what you're paying for them. When you're paying veteran minimums to guys coming off other teams' practice squads, you get what you pay for on that. Every once in a while, you get lucky. I know I don't play whataboutism. Like I said, with a small enough sample size, I can prove any points you want. Well, what about this guy? Yeah, that was 1 out of 1,000. Nice. Good luck building a team of 55 on 1 out of 1,000. You got to invest. The Broncos have.
Yeah.
Now they can be choosy at, with non-premium positions, with premium picks. That means you should come out of this with some really, really good football players to just supplement the core that you've already built in a playoff team with your quarterback, the offensive line, the defensive line. Those are done. Oh, and by the way, I got the defensive player of the year cleaning everything back on the backside. Lead the NFL in sacks. Now we can have some fun. Now it's going to be a lot of fun. So we're going to get out of here. Appreciate it, Zach, for letting me come on and hang out with you tonight. Want to say thank you to our Super Chat superstars, MBLEX Test Prep, Michael Ronquillo, of course, Phil, David, great to see you. And yes, I actually did get a haircut here recently. I saw you ask about that. David McElrath, Sam Bam for sure. Darren, good to see you. Deanna, Ralph, Dennis Woods, Gary Palmer, Eric Holt with a great question of the night. Victor, Shiloh, Chad Jensen, Gio, Ralph again, and finally, the Duchess. Thank you for all of your support tonight. And I think we're about ready to go, Zach.
Yes, sir. Scott, I appreciate you sitting in with me this evening. It's fun, as always, gearing up for the 2025 draft. We're back on, Chad and I, Thursday night for the draft. Round one, we'll be doing, I think, a live watch-along, or at least we'll be on while the draft's going on. But we'll have more information as the draft approaches. Have a great rest of your Monday. We'll see you soon. Take care, and as always, go Broncos.